Paul and Richard, we're here at Lurgan Rugby Club. It's also the cricket club too, but we're here because you both knew and had experience of Frank Toman. What are your earliest memories or memories of meeting Frank?
Well, it was the late 70s, early 80s, and I was either coach or captain. I can't remember, it's that long ago. I'd have to look up the record book. But this lad appeared, and we knew that he was a Gaelic footballer and a very good Gaelic footballer. He had plenty of skill, and not only that, he looked like a rugby player. He was well put together, he had good hands, good feet. So he had never played rugby in his life, as far as I knew at the time. But a few nights training out there and what have you, and you could see he was just a natural. And to me, when I was coaching, rugby was all about making space, one way or the other. But we got a slot for Frankie, probably in the seconds to start with, maybe even the thirds. And I can remember saying to him, look, Frank, when you're standing there, either waiting for the ball from a line out or waiting for the ball from a scrum, don't be standing there scratching yourself. Have a look around you. Where is the space? And that's what you've got to think about. Rugby is about space, and if you're in space, you're not going to get hurt. You might get hurt trying to get somebody else into space. But that was the mantra that I put with Frankie. Frankie knew where the space was because he did what he was told. He looked and he looked and he looked, and he could see maybe space over there or space in behind.
And what position was he given?
Out half, number 10. He could have played at full back as well because he had one almighty boot on him.
We played full back with me a couple of times, mainly out half, but also at full back. And it was just one of these. I mean, you were talking about when he arrived up. I mean, I'd be in training, and Frankie wasn't. The talk, but when he stripped out, he was
chunky.
He was in some shape. So
He was not fat or anything. He was muscular.
Of course, he was playing not alone Gaelic, he'd been playing soccer too. I mean, he was multi-disciplined, wasn't he?
He was a sportsman. He was a sportsman through and through.
I've always reckoned Frankie, didn't matter what sport, if there was a ball involved, he would have been good at it. You know, there's no surprise then. I actually wasn't surprised then. Married with Janice, she was a good hockey player. That the daughter is such
an international hockey player now. Yeah.
Wasn't surprised in the slightest. Yeah. You just that he was a natural.
And they met here, Janice and Frank.
Well, see, Frankie was a good social rugby. Rugby was a social game then. It wasn't turn up for training 2 nights a week, play a couple of hours on a Saturday afternoon and zoom, away you go. But rugby was a very social game. And after a couple of Saturday afternoons with Frankie having been showered and come up to the bar here, up to the lounge, he suddenly realised, Jesus, where did this all happen? Where did these girls come from? The hockey girls used to, if they were playing at home, that have come up and what have you. And little did we know that Frankie had set his eye on one of them, and that was Janice. And I think he may have been going out with Janice for a while before anybody even caught on that he was going out with Janice,
He was only looking for space.
Yeah, he was looking for space. But he and Janice now, they were a good couple, They were good fun. All the hockey girls were good fun, they enjoyed the banter and what have you. And Frankie could give banter as well as take it, Mm-hmm. And like in a rugby club, there are boundaries, but sometimes they're ill-defined. And you can say
you need a thick skin.
You could say most things to most people in a rugby club, and as long as it's said in the right tone of voice, you get away with it,
What about your playing memories with him?
Playing memories? Frankie, as I say, I played with Frankie. He was out half and played with him a few times at full back as well. And as a forward, you never trusted the backs. You worked hard to get the ball. and you give it back to them, and then you turn around and they've dropped it. The one thing you never knew about Frankie, he never dropped the ball. Frankie is always looking to make things happen. You know, but that Paul was talking about is about. I mean, he had a fantastic both off the deck and out of hand. He could hit a ball. And I mind down in the park, but I was just thinking about that when you heard about Frankie going. They used to play matches down in the park pitch, and it was really, really foggy. And it started off, you could just see one set of posts to the other. The second half, from halfway, you could see the other set of posts, and Frankie sent this bomb up. And I just sort of looked, from a penalty, and I just go, you can go and find that, Toman. It just disappeared, but but the one I remember, and I don't know if you were down there, at North. You mind North first were playing, and we were playing, I think it was their seconds, and we got this penalty, and it was inside our half, in and around about our 10-metre line, and we're wondering what to do, and Frankie says, I fancy a go at that. North first, they were senior league at the time. This is the old North ground, which is down off the Armagh Road, and we were in the second pitch, and there's this big crowd down, and he sets it up, and the North boy says, what's he think he's going on? And they're all very posh accent. And I goes, just watch. And he stuck it over the back wall into the estate. And it was still going up as it went over the wall.
I don't think the ball was ever retrieved.
Probably landed in the leg. But that's
it was heading for the lag, and the last the ball was seen, it was heading for the lag. And
the one thing that you always wanted in a back was somebody you could depend on. I know at full back, very important. Paul played in the forwards as well. When it goes behind and you're having to turn, that it's caught and somebody's there, it's gathered, that you're not having to go back and retrieve a situation. And with Frankie, he always knew I was going to be caught, I was going to be safe, and there's going to be something sensible happening. And as a right half, how should I put this? He was sympathetic to the forward. I don't know if you'd...
he was maybe a frustrated forward,
There's a thing that we quite sometimes think that some boys are frustrated back row forwards, playing the backs. But and I always reckon Frankie would have been a good open side.
What I found down the years from guys from the GAA fraternity is if the ball was in the air, you had no worries. You had no worries whatsoever. There's I see fellas walking about the town who used to play here years ago, and they'll stop and they'll still talk about their time at Lurgan, and it was a different experience.
How difficult was that? Do you think from the outside? Was it for Frankie to come here and for other Gaelic players?
I would say it was fairly difficult, because look where we are. There has never been one inference about anybody's religion, be they Jew or Hindu, from the estates about here. They have respected us. The population up here have respected us and have respected the people. We get buses from last couple of Sundays ago, a busload of girls from Virginia to play here.
County Cavan.
Yeah. We get them from buses from Letterkenny, buses from Monaghan, Cavan,
never
a word
about it. It's a peculiar thing,
so
just over this, the peace fund and what have you, there's been a lot of tie-in. There has been quite a bit of a tie-in now with...
St. Peter's tied in here with
stuff. But, I arrived here in 76, and there are always guys from the Gaelic tradition playing here. You're a fixture and fitting here, so you probably know what that beforehand. But once you're inside the gates of this place, you leave everything else out there. But to come up from that there, and you can, so in through where we are, our situation, so where we're situated, that's a different matter. But once you're inside there, and guys just,
fellas from the Shore Road, fellas from Tegnavon, rugby's a game that's seen as middle class, and I use that word very loosely. But there's one thing about this club, it is not middle class. you know.
It's just class by the
It's
sound
just,
of it.
it's
Absolutely.
just class. You know, I mean, you're a human being, you have two legs. If you can play rugby, come on, you boy, you know.
I know quite a few who have two legs and can't play rugby, and they're on some of the teams I've watched too. So there's a mixture of all sorts. I want to bring you back to why I'm here, and to Frank Toman's memory. How will Frank be remembered, not just by yourselves, but by the club in general?
Just a good guy.
Just a good guy. You see, the thing is, you've been in the committee room there, and there are loads of photographs, but they're all photographs of teams that have won something. Unfortunately for me and for Frankie and one or two others, we were the nearly men. We nearly won something, you know. And you don't get a picture in the committee room if you're a nearly man, you know. But I just remember Frankie as one good all-round fella, you know, who got on with everybody, and everybody got on with Frankie.
Frankie was a great guy on the pitch, and he's a great boy off the pitch.
Yeah.
I think we'll run those stories after we've switched the camera off, because there are one or two that you might not be able to tell us.
No, it might go down the wrong way, but it's very, very funny.
No, you couldn't tell them.
You couldn't tell, like, people would take offence at it, except anybody who was here when it happened. It really was hilarious.
It's you know, like when things happen in a rugby team.
What happens in tour stays on tour.
What happens in the group generally stays in the group. Like it'll leak out eventually.
I mean, so with any team you build up, sort of a tight bond amongst you. So everybody is playing together and what have you. And it's rugby, so Gaelic, sort of football, whatever. And there are those things. And when you're in with your mates, you can say anything you want to them, but what you hand out, you expect back. But I don't think people would really sort of, not within a sporting setup, would understand some of the stories.
We appreciate you taking time to talk to us, and best of luck with the Lurgan Rugby and the continuous, and the memory of Frank and many other players that we've had here.
We can't remember more, or there's things we don't want to tell you.
No doubt this is the sort of thing what you'll be thinking of, sort of the next thing he says, something I should have told him about that. It's one of those things. And I'd love to know, I must go and get my hands. There's I inherited a load of old photographs from the Lurgan Mail, black and white ones. And you sort of go through them, and I know somebody who has got all the ones, and I must dig through them and dig out some of the photographs.
Well, it would be nice, but it was a big shock.
Oh, it was.
Anybody who knew Frankie. The problem is now, it's a long time ago since Frankie was here, and it's only fellas like ourselves and basically our generation of players. There's not too many of us about here at the moment. The young fellas who are here now didn't know him, but they have listened at the bar there maybe on a Saturday afternoon when we've been sitting talking about Frankie, as we have done. And even when, what do they call Frankie's daughter?
Anna, I think it's Anna. I think it's Anna.
We were taking a certain pride in the fact that that's Frankie's girl,
Yeah, we're sort of saying to the boys here, that's a Lurgan girl.
See, that's
No, she's not a Lurgan girl, but it's just this.
We claimed her anyhow,
And it all started in this very room.
And it all started, maybe not in this room,
Maybe
but
that one over there.
in the one behind you in the bar. But it took Frankie about 3 weeks to find his feet, and once he found his feet, he found his love.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. It's just a pity we're meeting under these circumstances.